Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo and you're watching another live Q&A with you and me. Every weekday I answer a different question. It tends to be long and unedited, hence being here in the Geek Lifestyles YouTube channel, which obviously you've subscribed to, I assume by now. I'm looking at my invisible, not so very Apple Watch or Android Wear. What watch is this? I really don't know. But I am going to be talking about another company, not Google, not Apple, but Microsoft in today's question that's being streamed live. My supernomies, aka the patrons, are able to watch it ahead of time and they get to watch it without ads and all that stuff. It's nice that I get that kind of support and I'm very happy to give them even more of my time. So, Windows 10. They've released technical previews to this point, and I've had a chance to spend some fair amount of time with Windows 10, not in a virtual machine, as I had spent a lot of time in a virtual machine with Windows 8 because I really didn't have a lot of touchscreen PCs that could support Windows 8 when that was still in beta. I really appreciate the way that Microsoft has approached Windows 10, being very open with it, being very honest about it, and allowing really anybody to test it. Now, keep in mind, when you're testing Windows 10, that pretty much everything that you do, including everything that you key in, could be recorded. And I don't know what Microsoft's going to do with that data. Are they going to improve Windows? I would hope so. At certain points in the experience, I've noticed Microsoft or Windows itself would ask me questions. Hey, how difficult did you find it to discover this particular feature? So it's nice that they're getting some valid feedback in terms of actual usability of Windows 10. As those of you who've tuned in for the past month or two know, I've installed Windows 10, or planned on doing so, on my Surface Pro 3, which I've reviewed separately in a CPU episode in my classic YouTube channel. Again, the classic YouTube channel is for the edited videos. This is obviously not edited, because I'm going to be talking a long time, I'd imagine, especially about Windows 10. I want to say that Windows 10 is going to be a success for a lot of different reasons. I believe that Windows 10 is what Windows 8 could have been, or what it should have been, in terms of usability. That would have made up, I think, all the difference. I like that Microsoft is approaching the consumer population and suggesting that if you have a copy of Windows, then you should be able to upgrade for free for the first year to Windows 10 if you're running, Windows 8 or Windows 7. I'd like to see them go back and say that about Windows Vista users, potentially even XP users, because honestly, Windows 10, much like Windows 8, was designed to run on not very powerful hardware. That's just the way it is. And I'm not talking about Windows RT at all. I'm talking about straight up classic Windows with a classic desktop mashed up with the newer version of Windows. Now, I'm not going to be screencasting this, if only because I don't think I have the right to screencast anything. I'm not going to be showing you the interface of Windows 10 by and large, other than showing you, look, I am running Windows 10. Look at that. That is Windows 10, absolutely, on a Surface Pro 3. So if you want to try it, you should absolutely try it for yourself. I'd recommend it, but on a knock-around machine. All right? This is beta. I don't know if I would say it's anywhere near production, but a TLDR version, not to be confused with the LockerGnome Daily Report. I think Windows 10 will be successful. I really do. It made all the right decisions. The operating system, makes the right decisions in terms of usability, UX. And you might remember, my biggest issue with Windows 8 wasn't necessarily the UI, it was the UX. User experience, UX. UI, that's user interface. I like the tiles in the Windows 8, the touch experience of Windows 8, and certainly the tile implementation, the UI here on Windows 10. So it's not that I had a concern with Windows 8 UI. Again, I had a concern with Windows 8 UX. They solved the Windows 8 UX problem by really bridging the gap between traditional Windows and the way they want Windows to be. They're even going a step further, that when you buy a Windows tablet or a Windows PC, and it has a screen size that's a certain size, like a smaller screen size, it won't be able to run the desktop. You won't be able to jump to the classic desktop on a PC that has a certain screen size, a smaller screen size. And I think that was the right decision to make, because it sacrifices it doesn't sacrifice. It sacrifices the classic desktop on a Windows PC with a smaller form factor, but it doesn't sacrifice usability, because my bigger challenge with Windows, especially on smaller devices, smaller screen devices, was the usability factor. Absolutely. Outright. So I think they're making the right decision with that. I know some people are going to complain, but I think it's the right decision for Microsoft to make. And they've been public about this. I'm not, giving any kind of insider secrets. Honestly, I don't have any insider secrets. I'm not privy to any information that hasn't already been made public. So, I like the features that they are packing into Windows 10. I think Project Spartan looks to be a phenomenal browser. I hesitate to say upgrade from Internet Explorer, even though they're kind of different, or they're certainly going different directions with it. I really like the integration of Cortana. You can use Cortana on the Windows 10 technical preview. You got to connect your Microsoft account to it, or at least one of your Microsoft accounts to it, to try it. And that kind of integration at this level may seem superficial, but it makes a lot of sense. It's a great value add. It seems that the way Microsoft's approaching the melding of data with what they know, with how they execute things, with their software prowess, with their service prowess, and certainly their platform prowess. So bringing Cortana to the desktop, I don't think is to be. It's not a footnote. I think it's one of the bigger features inside of Windows 10. I also like the way they implemented the start menu. Kind of crossed it over with the start screen, allowing for easy toggling back and forth. I'm not hitting the points accurately. There's no problem with my touch points on the Surface Pro at all, and that's not. I have very few complaints about the Surface Pro 3. You can watch the review if you want. I've talked about it. It's not about the Surface Pro 3. So I think beyond that, I kind of have some issues with Windows 10. This is technical preview, so I reserve final judgment before anything's released. This is just how I feel right now. UX, I think they've nailed, or they're on the right path. No doubt about it. They're on the right path with Windows usability. I think Windows 10 will be successful in that capacity. The UI, I can't even say it. The UI, the user interface, different from UX again, because I have to say this again and again and again for the people that don't quite understand the difference between the two, and they're different. So I've said that this is kind of like Microsoft taking bits of Windows 7 with, bits of Windows 8 and bits of earlier versions of Windows and other versions of Windows and making a new version of Windows. And that's kind of what it looks like too. So they've got some cleanup work to do in the user interface department, because they've solved the UX and now they need to work on the UI, and it's a technical preview. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the polish that'll come down the pike will be the polish that Windows 10 needs. It needs polish because it's got everything else going for it. I think it's an absolutely compelling upgrade from Windows 7, absolutely from Windows 8.1, no doubt. But my dad, we recorded a video, right? He was sitting right here using Windows 10 for the first time, the preview edition, for a separate video for CPU. And so you can watch that video separately if you want. And he was basically saying the same things that I'm saying right now before he knew what I thought. So as an average consumer, someone who wouldn't necessarily consider himself, as savvy as some of you out there might, he was saying the same things. He's like, well, it's like they took this version of Windows and crossed it over with this version of Windows, and they took this tablet and crossed it over with a traditional laptop PC, and they made an all-in-one. They mashed everything together. So we got that. They mashed everything together, and it looks like that. This is my problem. That is the biggest issue I have with Windows 10. And you know what? For some people are like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care what it looks like. It works. That's you. Congratulations. You don't care what it looks like. I think Microsoft should care what it looks like. It feels like alignments, all over the map. It seems that fonts and font sizes it's just not consistent. It's just like they took several versions of Windows and mashed it into one. So I really do hope, that Microsoft can take all the wisdom that they've taken and created a compelling user experience in Windows 10, take that same wisdom and apply some polish. That's what I'm asking for, especially on devices like a Surface Pro 3, where you do have the option to see the classic desktop as well as the newer start screen, which you may have been used to inside of Windows 8. So please, if I ask Microsoft anything here, it's to keep going. You're heading the right direction. This is exciting to see, but you need a lot more polish. I think that Microsoft needs about 75% more polish on top of Windows 10 to really complete the entire overarching experience, not just the UX, the usability of Windows 10, which I think they've kind of nailed, or closer to nailing. It's that other side that I think is if there was a shortcoming, it's that it's just, I'm not going to call it fugly. It's just not where I think it could be. I think that they need to keep working on that. Apart from that, if they don't do any spit and polish, because it is Microsoft, and traditionally speaking, that's not always been at the forefront. In the past, they're starting to change, and I appreciate that. If they do not polish the UI to make it feel like it's just one OS, then I think the best Windows experience, this is going to sound weird, the best Windows experience is going to be on Windows PCs that aren't able to run the desktop. Because it'll be that start menu experience, the full screen, the Metro apps, or I'm sorry, the modern apps. No one can seem to get rid of the word Metro, even though Microsoft, had to get rid of it because of I think it was a German company that had a copyright or a trademark on it. So why I say that is not because I'm saying that the Windows desktop is not powerful, or that you wouldn't want to run apps or programs on the Windows desktop. The thing that I feel is important is a cohesive experience, that it feels like it's one OS, one form of modality, one experience, one OS. And I feel that if Microsoft makes it such that you don't get part of that experience, you can still have a full experience because you're not seeing a different user interface on the same experience. You're seeing just one user interface. And I think, and I've always believed this, the Windows 8 ethos, whatever you want to call it, modern, Metro, whatever, I thought always did well. I never had any issues with it whatsoever. Like the beauty of the design of the apps that they made on specifically that ran full screen that a lot of people complain about because of usability. I find that to be a much more compelling, comprehensive Windows experience than the mishmash of that user interface mixed with the classic desktop user interface. So they're taking steps forward, but I don't yet know if it's going to look like they're taking steps forward. Usability-wise, absolutely, but user interface, there needs to be a lot more polish. So you're going to likely see if I, as I begin to explore Windows 10 computers, I will likely, personally, gravitate away from or gravitate to the devices that don't run the classic desktop. Windows PCs that don't have the desktop. I'd rather use those types of devices than the ones that have kind of got one foot in the past, the classic desktop. So it'll be interesting, suffice it to say, to see how this plays out, because the stakes are very high. It's not that people need PCs. Gamers, absolutely, for sure. But the average user, what they need to check their email is this PC right here. That, I think, is the biggest challenge that Microsoft has to overcome with Windows. I mean, beyond making it a good user experience overall, they're fighting certain market realities. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Microsoft needs users more than users need Microsoft. And they have to play the game that way. And I hope they do, because they certainly have the brain power. They certainly have the drive for it, but they have to approach it and begin to approach it from a different way. The world doesn't need Microsoft. Microsoft needs the world. And you'll find if they change their perspective, users are going to benefit. Now, if you're the type of person that doesn't care about Windows, you don't want to use Windows at all, you just don't care about Microsoft, you still want Microsoft to do better. You still want them to do well, for the very reason that competition keeps everybody healthy. If you want to see what happens when you have no competition, are you familiar with the browser wars? What happened when there was no competition for a while? Any industry, when there's no competition, there's no innovation, there's no changes, there's no moving the ball forward. It has nothing to do with just being in tech. One of the things I love about technology is always wanting to upgrade. This device here, it's not going to be a great device 10 years from now because we'll have moved on. This device here won't be a great device 10 years from now because we'll have moved on. All the devices you have around you are probably not going to be great 10 years from now. We'll always need to upgrade. We'll always need something different. The thing is that for Microsoft, we have a lot more selection. So Microsoft's playing smart Their platform play, they're allowing you to access Microsoft services even if you're not using Microsoft hardware or not on a Microsoft platform. That's the right way to go. But Windows still has a chance to keep people's attention and still has a chance to retain value. And I'm not talking about a certain segment of the marketplace. For business users, do they need a PC? No. Does the average user who might just do some light social networking and management or whatever, and do they need a PC? No. And by the way, when I'm saying PC, I'm talking maybe the traditional paradigm. So I might be talking about a Mac, or I might be talking about a Windows PC. I might be talking about desktop Linux. Do they need a PC? They need this right here. And this is the place right here in this modality that Microsoft has kind of lost the ball on. That's kind of unfortunate. I'm not going to talk about Windows Phone or Windows 10 on a phone in this particular video, if only because I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I can't speak to it. But this, I think, is Microsoft's bigger challenge, not just having changed what Windows is in moving forward, at least at the state with Windows 10 Technical Preview, but the market at large, that we all need them to do better on. We all do. All of us. Every single one of us, even if you hate Microsoft. I don't hate Microsoft. I don't. I didn't hate Microsoft when I told them they were going to do the wrong thing with Windows 8. I didn't hate them when I said that they were going to do Windows Vista was going to be a disaster. I didn't hate them when I talked about Windows Millennium Edition, how I thought it was a mistake as well. I didn't hate them. I've never hated them because in technology, there's never a winner. Oh, sure, today there might be a quote-unquote winner, depending on how you look at the numbers. But there is no winner in a race that never ends. The last thing anybody wants is for Microsoft to drop out of the race or to just be shoved out because they're no longer needed. We need them to be needed. Absolutely. So I'm saying this because this isn't about being a fan of one company or a fan of a platform. Because I think that's evangelism, and that's great if you are an evangelist. But it also speaks to not understanding market realities. When you're so firmly entrenched in a piece of technology that's by design going to be outmoded in like 2 years, there's so many options available. I mean, I just believe, as maybe it's making me sound more like a Renaissance geek, but I believe in trying a variety of things, if only to gain perspective. And this is the one thing that I think Microsoft needs to do more of to understand Windows's relevance today, not Windows' relevance 10 years ago, because the ball has moved. Where's it going to be 5 years from now? I have no idea. I want Microsoft to not just win, I want them to do better. I need them to do better, but I'd say that about any company that's operating in this space. We need them all to do better. So, I don't care what you choose to use. I care what you think. I genuinely do. I'm not looking to validate your opinion. People tune in to hear my opinions. That's all it is. It's just my opinion. There are certain facts and there are certain opinions. Flat facts, opinions. I understand how to separate the two. I'm not telling you what's the thing that you should use because you know better than I do. You know a lot more than I do. I'm not projecting anything onto you. This isn't about being biased because I hate to tell you this. Now, actually, I kind of love to tell you this. Everybody's biased. Accusing someone of being biased is like accusing them of being a human being, which, you know what, is not a bad thing. Because I like being a human being. I like having experiences, and I like being able to reserve the right to change my mind. So, now that I've said things that I'm sure some people who comment will never possibly listen to because they're just trapped inside the voices that they've got spinning around in their own head, I just had to say it, especially in this video, because I think the stakes have never been higher for Microsoft, and I want them to do better. And I think that the initial experiences that I've had with Windows 10 seem to indicate that they're going the right direction, that I think Windows 10 will be successful, but they need to do a lot more polishing. And I've said the same thing to other companies as well, for those of you who have not been paying attention to more than just one of the videos that I've done, this one. So thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for continuing to ask for my opinion. I'm very happy to share it. And I'm also very happy to say that I value other people's opinions as well, because that's what allows me to grow. That's what allows me to expand my horizons. That is what allows me to understand perspectives when you share them with me and not devalue the things that I'm saying because you believe that I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it as right as I possibly can. And that's just giving you my perspective because that's all I have. That's all I own. And that's all I want to share with you today. So at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.